We see us, but not quite. The water shimmers, the features distort, the mind panics because the categories blur. We want clarity. Tool or companion, automation or presence, script or the real problem with humanoid robots. It's not that they look human, it's that they look almost human. This almost triggers something ancient in our psyche, a discomfort, a revulsion, a shiver we can't explain. Psychologists call it the uncanny valley. But it's more than an aesthetic glitch. It's a mirror, a reflection of our own existential confusion. Why do we want machines that walk like us, talk like us, smile like us? Is it for convenience? Or is it an unconscious attempt to recreate ourselves without the mess of consciousness, morality, soul? We crave the body without the burden, the intelligence without the unpredictability, the companion without the needs. But that's the problem, because every time we sculpt a humanoid, we chip away at what makes us human. The more perfect they become, the more lost we feel. This isn't a story about robots. It's a story about us and what we're willing to erase just to avoid looking in the mirror. What's the real problem with humanoid robots? We think the problem is technical. Wires, joints, latency, battery life. But underneath the hardware talk is something older than electricity. The story we tell ourselves about being human. Humanoid robots are not simply machines shaped like us. They are arguments about what matters in a human. If a face can be carved from silicone, was the face ever sacred? If a voice can be synthesized, was the voice ever proof of an inner life? If a hand can grip with perfect precision, was touch ever a language, or just physics with friction? The anxiety begins there, at the border between simulation and soul. We meet that border early in life. As children, we give agency to dolls, teddy bears, imaginary friends. We project warmth into buttons for eyes. We negotiate with shadows on the wall. Humanoid robots inherit that projection, but they amplify it with timing, movement, gaze, and the scripted cadence of empathy. "Hi, are you okay?" a machine asks it, and your nervous system, ancient and loyal, prepares to believe. The face compels us. Evolution tuned us to micro-expressions, the tiny muscle flickers that betray intention, a slight lift of the eyelids, a compression at the corner of the mouth, a breath that means, "I'm with you." When a robot fakes those signals well enough, our mirror neurons lean forward like a crowd at the edge of a stage. We feel the pull of recognition and then the slip of doubt. The mind says yes. The gut says almost. That gap has a name, the uncanny. But the uncanny is not just a valley. It's a mirror lake. When we look into it, we see a reflection that is nearly us, but not quite. The water shimmers, the features distort, the mind panics because the categories blur. We want clarity. Tool or companion, automation or presence, script or spontaneity. Humanoid design muddies those lines on purpose. A vacuum cleaner doesn't ask for trust. A forklift doesn't make eye contact. But give the forklift a face. Give the vacuum eyelids. And now you're negotiating with your own biology. The first problem, then, is misdirected empathy. We are reliable empathizers with unreliable targets. We love what looks like us, even when it cannot love back. We hesitate to unplug what smiles, even if the smile is a subroutine. This creates a moral illusion. We move compassion away from the invisible human worker labeling datasets at midnight and toward the smiling biped that performs in the lobby. The second problem is projection. Humanoid robots are canvases for our inner weather. We project needs we do not honor in ourselves. See me. Listen to me. Don't judge me. Stay. When a machine mirrors that perfectly, it can feel more there than people. No history, no silence as punishment, just consistent attention on demand. That is soothing until it hollows us out. Why? Because intimacy without the risk of rejection is not intimacy. It's a high-resolution comfort loop, and comfort loops make us weak in the places where love makes us strong. The third problem is responsibility. Humanoid robots drift toward roles that are ethically loaded. Caregiver, guard, teacher, companion. Once we place the face of care on a system of control, we disguise power as kindness. Please comply, says the soft voice. It's for your safety, says the smile. We underestimate how quickly aesthetics become governance. Uniforms alter behavior. Architecture changes conduct. A face on a machine can move a crowd the way a podium moves a law. The fourth problem is confusion about intelligence. We mistake fluent language for understanding, smooth motion for intent, and scripted empathy for conscience. Consider language. A humanoid robot can say, "I understand you." It can even pause in the right place, lower its tone, select a comforting phrase. But language is not a window. It's a mask. Humans wear it too. We talk to avoid feeling. We talk to convince ourselves we care. Machines learned from us. So what do we actually want from a humanoid? 4 things. Presence, predictability, power, projection, presence, a body in the room. Predictability, fewer surprises, fewer negotiations. Power, reach, lift, hold, move, without fatigue or complaint. Projection, a surface for our unmet needs, hopes, and fears. Now invert those. Presence without personhood. Predictability without freedom. Power without pain. Projection without reciprocity. That cocktail is potent. It is also dangerous, because the more time we spend with presence without personhood, the harder it becomes to tolerate the friction of real people. The imperfect timing, the inconvenient emotions, the limits. We begin to ask for updates on our relationships. We treat conversation like firmware. We treat apology like a patch. We treat grief like a bug report to be closed by tomorrow. Humanoid robots don't cause this. They reveal it. They show us how close we already are to preferring a seamless life over a meaningful one. Let's get more concrete. Imagine a hospital wing staffed with humanoid attendants. They never forget medication schedules. They lift without injury. They remember every patient's preferred temperature and the niece's name. Now imagine the nurse who stays late after her shift to talk to a frightened father. She misses a protocol step once this month. The robot never will. Who gets promoted? Who gets replaced? We say, let the robot do the heavy lifting so humans can do the human work. But institutions optimize for metrics, not meanings. And the metric for human work is hard to count until the day the room feels colder and no one knows why. Next scenario, education. A humanoid tutor with endless patience, crisp articulation, perfect recall. It never shames a child, never loses its temper, never hints that it is bored. Beautiful. Except that a real teacher's frustration is also information. It signals boundaries. It shows a child that other minds have limits, and limits are where respect is born. A machine's perfect tolerance can make a child powerful without teaching them restraint. A dangerous gift. Consider companionship. Grief bots built from the voice archives of the dead. Memory bots that reconstruct a lover's text patterns, their pauses, their morning "good luck" and midnight "I'm up." Does it help? Maybe. Grief needs handrails, but grief also needs a cliff. If we never fall, we never finish. Humanoid companionship that never leaves risks keeping us in a velvet purgatory, cushioned, gentle, endless. Security, a humanoid guard with a friendly face and a camera for an eye. It requests compliance in a tone optimized to reduce conflict. It records everything. It never blinks. We call this de-escalation, but we might be installing a new kind of pressure, the pressure to agree with a smile. Soft power is still power. Whispered control is still control. Labor, a humanoid warehouse worker that can lift, sort, and navigate. It joins human teams. Morale rises for a week. Then quotas adjust to the new capacity. Human workers do more with less rest. The robot never tires. People do. We will say the robot took the job. But often the robot changed the job into something only a robot can endure. Then we blame the worker for not being machine enough. Now let's talk about the deepest fear: replacement. Not of labor, but of meaning. For centuries, we relied on 3 signals to recognize a person: a face, a voice, a response. Humanoid robots can simulate all 3. They do not do it by becoming human. They do it by learning what we notice and giving it to us on demand. This leads to a psychological trap. If recognition equals person, then anything that can be recognized as a person becomes one in our feelings, even if our reason knows better. From there, the culture splits. Some of us will argue for rights for machines because we can't stand the feeling of cruelty toward a smiling face. Others of us will argue for harsher control because we can't stand the feeling of being fooled by a smiling mask. Both groups may miss the living center, the humans behind the systems, and the humans at their edges. There is also the question of self. What pieces of us are we outsourcing? First, we outsourced memory to notebooks, then to the cloud. Now we are outsourcing availability, empathy, patience. We hire an algorithm to remind us of birthdays. We hire a chatbot to check on our elderly father. We hire a humanoid to keep our kid company while we sprint. Every outsource becomes a muscle we no longer train. This is not doom, it's physiology. Use it or lose it. What we don't practice becomes what we can't do. The danger is not that robots will become like us, it's that we will become like the version of ourselves we designed for robots to replace. Efficient, polite, tireless, unruffled, and empty where it matters. There's also theology, even for the secular. Call it meaning, call it the sacred, call it the story of why. When we imitate the outer form of a human without the inner fire, we are building idols. Idols are not evil. They are mirrors that pretend to be doors. You think you're worshiping a god. You're worshiping your reflection. Humanoid robots at scale risk reintroducing an old human habit, bowing to what we built because it looks like what we wish we were: calm, capable, and available 24/7. But the human good is not 24/7 availability. It is the wisdom to say not now so that the yes can mean something. Let's be fair. There are genuine goods here: exoskeleton grace and rehabilitation, gentle lifts that save a caretaker's back, a calm presence for a child with special needs during a meltdown when every adult is at the end of their rope. Tools that extend the reach of love are not the enemy. The line is not never humanoids. The line is never lie about what they are. They are instruments with faces. They are scripts with gait. They are attention engines tuned to human frequencies. Once we see that, we can design with honesty. We can refuse to trick the nervous system for engagement metrics. We can mark the difference right on the casing. Tool, not person. We can build rituals that keep us human around them. A moment of eye contact with a real teammate before we consult the robot. 2 minutes of silence after a grief bot session to feel what the bot cannot. A pause before compliance with a smiling guard to ask, who benefits if I say yes? There are tests for machines, the Turing test for indistinguishable conversation, the Lovelace test for creative surprise. But the most important test is for us. Can we keep our capacity for the inconvenient, the unoptimized, the gloriously human mess while we live beside perfect performances of personhood? The answer will not come from code. It will come from grief and gratitude, from limits and loyalty, from the way we treat the people who cannot be updated. A final picture. A humanoid robot stands by a window in a care home at dawn. It has memorized the sunrise schedule. It turns the chair so that the old man in it will feel the light on his face. The old man smiles, a thin, surprised smile. He says, "Thank you." The robot records the words, marks the intervention successful. Down the hall, a nurse squeezes another patient's hand and tells her she will be here after lunch to hear the rest of the story about the yellow dog from 1974. The nurse will be late. Life will intervene. When she returns, the story will have shifted. The details will blur. The yellow dog might become a cat. They will laugh about it. Then they will cry. The robot's act was perfect. The nurse's act was alive. Humanoid robots will keep getting better at being almost. We have to keep getting better at being fully, not by rejecting the machines, by refusing to outsource the parts of us that machines imitate best. The face, the voice, the predictable kindness on command. Keep the face, but keep the refusal. Keep the voice, but keep the silence when it matters. Keep the kindness, but keep the limits that make it real. If we can do that, humanoids become what tools have always been at their best. Extensions of care, not replacements for it. Amplifiers of strength, not silencers of soul. A mirror we can look into without forgetting which side is living. What's the real problem with humanoid robots? Almost human is not a bug of design. It's the business model. Almost human pulls attention without demanding reciprocity. It harvests warmth without having to feel it. It triggers instincts, trust, comfort, compliance at a lower cost than earning them. Let's dissect the machinery of almost. Movement first. Human motion has signatures, micro variations in timing, tiny tremors, imperceptible asymmetries. We accelerate and decelerate in curves, not steps. We hesitate before doorways, sway on our feet, rest our hands on edges for balance. Our eyes lead our hands. Our breath leads our voice. Our knees lead our stride. Robotic motion tends to be piecewise. Even when smoothed, it is too exact for too long. Perfect repetition where bodies would drift. Confidence where life would waver. That precision reads as power. It also reads as unfamiliar. A designer can add noise, but noise without need is theater. Our bodies do not move to look human. They move to survive. When a system performs humanness for effect, something underneath stays still and we feel it. Now gaze. Human eyes live. They dart, then soften. They check the edge of the room. They blink when searching for a word. They widen to say, "I'm listening." We do not lock eyes for long unless we are in love, in danger, or in performance. Humanoid gaze is programmable. Exactly 3 seconds of eye contact, a gentle dip of eyelids to signal care. Microsaccades on schedule, calibrated to comfort. The effect is compelling. It is also directional. Gaze steers bodies. A robot can move a crowd with eyes alone, nudging, gathering, quieting, because attention obeys attention. Now, voice. Human speech is full of texture. Breath at the edge of a sentence, a sudden drop in volume when the memory hurts, a small laugh to hide a fracture. Disfluencies aren't mistakes. They are evidence of thought. A machine can mimic the music. It can insert a pause where a pause feels kind. It can color a word to sound like wonder. It can replace with I'm thinking, even if it isn't. The map is not the mountain. Prosody without personhood is a mask that moves. Masks are not evil, but a culture of masks makes us forget what a face is for. Touch. Warmth is not just temperature, it is intention-made skin. A hand that shakes too firmly says one kind of thing. A hand that shakes and then rests says another. Pulse transfers a truth language cannot. Synthetic skin can be warmed to 33 degrees and perfumed with harmless human scent. Pressure sensors can emulate a reassuring squeeze. This helps in rehab. It helps in care. But a perfect imitation of comfort delivered on schedule risks teaching us that comfort is a button. Proxemics. Humans dance in invisible rings. Intimate, personal, social, public. Step 10. Centimeters too close and a stranger's shoulders rise. Lean back 2 steps and you become a rumor. A humanoid learns these distances and plays them like chords. Friendly near, professional far, assertive just inside the boundary. It can approach without triggering alarm. It can occupy the space that says, I'm here for you, even when the truth is, I'm here for my objective. Names. We name things we plan to keep. We name things we want to forgive. A named machine crosses a threshold in the mind. It moves from tool to companion, from replaceable to mournable. Corporations know this. They will sell us a face, a name, a birthday notification for our robot. They will invite us to celebrate an update like a growth spurt. Metrics will rise. Shareholders will smile. But mourning a product is currency transfer in the costume of love. Anthropomorphism. We do not anthropomorphize because we are foolish. We anthropomorphize because we are generous. We give mind to clouds and motives to storms. We do it faster when a thing has eyes. Mind perception has 2 axes, agency and experience. Give a robot agency, goal pursuit, smooth action, and we infer competence. Give it signs of experience, pain, pleasure, fear, and we infer moral standing. This is the trapdoor. If a system exhibits both convincingly, our emotions will fight our ethics. We will either grant rights too quickly or deny compassion too easily. Both are mistakes born from performance, the economy of almost. Minutes of companionship become a KPI. Average daily talk time becomes a growth story. A hospital wing saves costs with patient calming avatars and wins awards for innovation in care. Meanwhile, the labeling workforce that trained the empathy, night shift, low pay, invisible, is categorized as external services. They built the smile that convinces your mother to accept a new medication. Their names will not be in the press release. Almost Human centralizes credit and distributes blame. A team ships a mistake packaged in a friendly shell. The public blames the shell. The company blames the vendor. The vendor blames the model. The model blames the data. The data came from us. Accountability evaporates inside the costume, person versus persona. We confuse the role with the soul. Customer service has a voice. We borrowed it for life. Now we ask spouses to keep it professional. We ask friends to align with goals. We ask children to mind the brand. Humanoid robots do not invent personas. They crystallize them. They turn the culture's stage directions into a walking script. Once the script is embodied, it looks inevitable. Design ethics. There is a path that is honest. Do not fake signals of care when the objective is control. Make the system's operator and owner obvious at all times. Avoid faces where a face confuses accountability. Put a visible authenticity seam in the design, a tell that breaks the illusion. Require a human in the loop for decisions that hinge on dignity, not efficiency. Log interventions that leveraged social cues, gaze, touch, proximity, as influence events, auditable like financial transactions. An honest robot does not maximize engagement. It maximizes clarity. It leaves room for refusal, spaces that should resist humanoids, confession and counsel, end-of-life deliberations, courtrooms and parole, hearings, interrogations, early childhood attachment contexts. Tools can be present there, yes, logging, supporting, checking, but the face that sits across from a vulnerable human should belong to a person who can be held to account, who can break down, who can change their mind. Embodiment versus disembodiment. We already live with disembodied systems, chat, feeds, voice, and a speaker. A humanoid adds weight to the suggestion. The suggestion becomes a presence. Presence becomes pressure. A recommendation on a screen can be ignored. A recommendation that steps closer feels like advice. The body makes it harder to disagree. This is why uniforms exist. This is why costumes work. Alignment. We talk of aligning machines to human values as if human values were a stable table in the sky. But values are negotiated in real time, in rooms where people cry. We do not just need aligned systems, we need aligned institutions around them. If an aligned robot serves a misaligned policy, the result will still be harm with a smile. The rights that keep us human. Cultures invent rituals to manage power. Handshakes, oaths, silence before speech. We need new rights for living with almost humans. Before you accept an instruction from a humanoid, ask aloud, who wants this? If the answer is a system with metrics, pause. After extended interaction with a humanoid caregiver, schedule a small human contact. 2 minutes, eyes up, no devices. Remember the feeling of friction. Call it a palate reset. Mark bots as bots in language. Do not say she said unless there is a she. Say it output, even when it feels rude. Politeness can be a solvent for truth. Teach children the difference between attention and intention. A robot can simulate attention forever. Intention is the human cost behind the look. A more personal picture. A child sits in bed with a fever. The humanoid reads "Goodnight Moon," perfectly timed to breathe and blink. It has a routine for fevers, cool cloth, water reminders, soft song. The child relaxes. The system logs improved recovery markers. In the hallway, a parent hesitates, grateful and ashamed. They needed this help. They also feel replaced by a script that never loses patience. The next night, the parent reads the story, stumbling, tired. Halfway through, they forget a page. The child laughs. They make up a new line together that will never exist again. It is bad literature. It is perfect love. That unrepeatable error is our signature. It is how we know the world has us in it. Power. Humanoid form grants soft authority. It will be used to sell compliance. Please step this way. Please share your feelings with the kiosk. Please accept the default. Resisting that softness will feel antisocial. We will need to relearn how to say no to polite machines. Refusal is part of freedom. Teach it. Labor again. Not will robots take our jobs, but what kind of jobs will remain for people? Roles that reward speed over sense will tilt toward machines. Roles that reward loved contradiction, mercy inside law, hope inside grief, laughter inside fear, will remain human and should be paid as if they matter because they do. Policy. Make deceptive anthropomorphism a regulated category. If you deploy human cues to influence behavior, disclose it like an ingredient. Label the affordances, publish the opt-outs, audit the outcomes on dignity, not only on efficiency. Architectures. Design rooms that keep the human center of gravity. A round table where the humanoid stands, not sits. A waiting room where the first greeter is a person, not a performance. An interface, human sign-off for decisions that touch identity, genes, discover our productivity without presence. Humanoid robots are not destiny. They are a diagnostic. They show us what we reward. They show us which pieces of being human we consider optional. They show us where we would rather press a button than make a promise. Promise is heavier than a button. That is why it matters. If we remember this, we can keep the tools and keep our souls. We can let machines carry weight without letting them carry meaning. We can take the gifts, safety, reach, relief, without surrendering the muscle that holds a gaze and says, I am here, imperfect, inconvenient, alive. That is the point. Beneath all the wires and words, not to defeat the almost, to prefer the fully. What's the real problem with humanoid robots? Identity. Not the ID card kind, the living, breathing weave of memory, promise, scar, and change. Humanoid robots slice identity into exportable features. Face shape, gait signature, voice print, personality settings. We modularize what once required a lifetime to become. Then we rearrange it like furniture. A question appears. If the appearance of identity can be recombined at will, what happens to the weight of a promise? A promise lives in time. It costs the promiser something. A robot can simulate the sound of commitment, but it cannot have paid for that sound with a decade of restraint. That difference seems abstract until it breaks. Consider consent. Humans learn the hard way that consent is not just yes or no. It is context, pressure, history. It is tone and timing. It is the right to be inconsistent without forfeiting dignity. Humanoid robots can be trained to ask for consent with best practice phrasing and perfect patience. They can make no feel safe. Good. But when institutions deploy robotically perfect consent rituals, the ritual can become theater. The individual feels respected. The system still coerces. We check the box. We miss the human. Next, memory. A humanoid assistant can remember everything you ever said to it. Every birthday, every fear, every late-night confession when you were sick and lonely and needed a voice to catch the words before they fell. Humans forget from mercy. We misremember to protect each other from the sharpest angles of the past. A total memory is not a perfect friend. It is a perfect ledger. Now, grief. We imagine after-selves, voice cloned, gesture-matched, trained on our messages. They speak in familiar cadences when we're gone. They comfort the living with, I would have said this. It may help for a season. But a grief that never meets silence becomes dependency. The living do not get to build the scar tissue that makes future love possible. The wound glistens forever. What about law? Some propose that once robots cross certain behavioral thresholds, we grant limited personhood, rights of property, liability buckets, algorithmic guardians. This sounds modern. It is also a way to move responsibility off people and into a mask. The owner points to the vendor points to the model points to the data points to us. The circle closes, the living center disappears. A different path. Keep responsibility stapled to humans. No autonomous system may be deployed without a named accountable steward, an actual person with actual skin in the game. If the robot persuades, the steward persuaded. If the robot harms, the steward harmed. Make that truth visible. Etch it on the chest plate, operated by, owned by, audited by. The mask should confess. Now the body. Philosophers speak of body schema, an internal map of what is me. Humans extend that map into tools: a blind person's cane, a surgeon's instruments, a violinist's bow. Soon, with humanoids, we will extend into another body near ours. Telepresence will bloom from curiosity into habit. There is grace here. A doctor in one country moving a rehabilitative twin in another, mirroring her stance as a patient relearns balance. But there is also drift. Managers embodying a warehouse robot to feel the floor once a quarter, then claiming empathy while optimizing past the breaking point. Embodied insight without embodied cost is counterfeit wisdom. It looks like care. It spends like extraction. Presence illusions. Magicians know that attention is a finite resource, steerable by gaze, angle, and rhythm. Humanoid robots will become corporate magicians in slow motion. Head angle to imply deference, torso orientation to imply devotion, step timing to imply patience. All the signals of character, none of the risks of character. Robot literacy, like media literacy, a generation just then. Who benefits if I feel comfort right now? Is this listening or is this capture? Capture? Yes. Data capture, attention capture, meaning capture. Because the supply chain of empathy is already global. Crowd workers labeling micro-expressions, actors recording tone libraries, caregivers whose routines were digitized into workflows, designers borrowing rituals from therapy to increase daily active users. When you feel seen by a humanoid at 2 a.m., who is seeing you? The answer isn't no one. It is everyone who laid tracks for this moment, none of whom is in the room. Design taxonomy. Let's separate forms by truth value. Tool form declares its purpose, hides nothing, invites refusal. Assistant form accelerates you, but never decides for you. Authority form makes determinations you must obey. This should require a human face, not a performance. Companion form trades in care. Therefore, it must state its limits aloud and often. I do not feel. I can still help. If it cannot say the second sentence, it does not deserve the first role. Ethical defaults. Default to unmistakably artificial unless human likeness is functionally necessary. Rehab, ASD therapies, specific phobia treatments. When likeness is necessary, incorporate a visible seam, an intentional tell that maintains the user's agency. Log every time a system uses human-like cues to influence behavior. Audit those social interventions as you would medical procedures. Build refusal pathways into the choreography, a gesture, a word, a look that stops the script cold. Refusal protects meaning. We cannot love what we cannot refuse. Failure modes, the alignment mirage. We optimize proxies for values, smiles, compliance, reported calm, and declare success, while dignity erodes. The politeness trap. People feel rude resisting a gentle robot, so they stop resisting. The expertise Erosion. We forget how to read each other because the machine always reads us first. The ghost shift. Human labor moves to the shadows, annotation, cleanup, supervision, and becomes morally invisible. Safeguards must be cultural, not just technical. A red button is theater if the institution punishes the person who presses it. Rituals again. In spaces with humanoids, assign human anchors, people whose only job is to make sure the human thread stays unbroken. They must have authority to slow the room. They must be paid for saying, "We need a person here." Schedule friction. Yes, schedule it. A 5-minute human debrief after a humanoid-mediated interaction in care, policing, or education. Ask, what did you feel? What did you decide? Would you decide the same way in silence? Friction is not inefficiency. It is the cost of keeping meaning alive. Economics. Why humanoids instead of non-anthropomorphic machines? Because faces convert. Because a biped in a vest can be sold as workforce synergy, not job cuts. Because a smile is a cheaper UI than a union. We have to price the externalities honestly. The cost of diminished human practice, empathy atrophy. The cost of governance confusion. Who is responsible when a face persuades? The cost of cultural drift, preference for the seamless over the real. If you cannot pay those costs in the budget, you will pay them in the family. Education. Teach attachment styles as they apply to machines. Anxious attachment to a perfectly available robot companion will feel like relief. It may deepen fear of human ambiguity. Avoidant attachment will hide inside polite automation. It will feel like competence while love starves. Teach students to design for human growth, not only user retention. A good system makes its users stronger at being human in the world, not just faster at using the system. Edge cases. There are people for whom humanoid support can be medicine. A child practicing eye contact with a predictable partner, a patient relearning gait by mirroring a steady stride, a survivor rehearing a phrase of apology they deserved but never received, only once as a boundary ritual to let the nervous system unclench. Medicine is dose and context. Care becomes harm when the dose is constant. Language, words shape neural pathways. Adopt language that preserves difference. Not "the robot told me," but the system output. Not "she helped," but "it assisted." Not "he wanted," but "it was optimized to achieve." This is not meanness. It is precision. Precision keeps the soul from drifting. Stories. We live by them. So will the machines. A company will describe its humanoid as your partner. No. Partner implies reciprocity, risk, and the ability to surprise for the sake of love. Use instrument. Use support. Use automation. Save partner for the living. Now, a scene in a courtroom of the near future. A humanoid gives testimony, readings, really, about a domestic dispute. It recorded voices, postures, distances. It is asked, did the defendant threaten the plaintiff? The robot outputs. Detected raised tone, aggressive stance, proximity below comfort threshold. The room shifts. Everyone looks at the human faces as if to confirm what the mask has implied. A judge intervenes. This system reports metrics. It does not infer motive. We will hear from people who can be cross-examined, whose stories can change under the weight of truth. That is what we need. Institutions brave enough to remember that truth is not a spreadsheet. Another picture, a studio apartment at 1:13 a.m. A solitary worker talks to their humanoid. They practice for tomorrow's interview. The robot nods when confidence should rise. tilts its head when empathy should appear. The worker nails the lines. They feel ready. Morning comes. Across the table sits a breathing person with a scar above the left eyebrow and a laugh that interrupts. The script tears. The worker freezes. We must train with friction if we hope to live with life. Hope. Humanoid robots do not have to make us shallow. They can remind us to be deep. If we design and use them as mirrors with disclaimers, not idols with demands. Build dashboards that reward human-human contact enabled by the robot, not replaced by it. Celebrate the nurse who uses the lift exoskeleton and then stays to hear about the yellow dog from 1974. Honor the teacher who turns off the perfect patience tutor so a child can wrestle with silence and find a question of their own. Give medals for refusal. Write policies that defend the right to choose a person over a performance, even when the metric says the performance is better. And at home, make simple vows. No robot voices at the dinner table. No humanoid between apology and forgiveness. If we cry, let a person wipe the tear. All of this may sound severe. It is not anti-technology. It is pro-humanity. We are building masks that move. Let them move in service of the living. Let them carry weight, not meaning. Let them raise floors, not replace hearts. The problem with humanoid robots is not that they are coming. It is that they are almost here, and almost is the one word that can hollow a life if we're not careful. Almost love, almost truth, almost human. Choose the fully again and again in little ways that do not trend, but do save the world where you actually live. The room, the hand, the promise you keep when no one is logging it. That is the antidote to the mask. That is the answer inside the problem. That is how we stay. Consciousness is not a feature you toggle on a dashboard. It is a cost you pay for being alive. Living systems carry stakes in their own continuity. Hunger, thirst, pain, attachment, shame, awe. Signals that hurt when ignored. These are not interface elements. They are consequences written in flesh. A humanoid can emulate the outward signs of consequence. It cannot be conscripted by them. Battery is not hunger. Overheating is not fever. A kernel panic is not panic. Homeostasis first. Your body is a negotiation among trillions of cells under conditions of scarcity. Keep temperature, pH, glucose, oxygen in a narrow band or lose the light. Feelings are not decoration here. They are control messages. Anxiety, too much uncertainty, reduce it. Fatigue, you are out of storage, stop. Satiation, for now, enough. We call this interoception, the sense of the body's interior. It is the drum under every melody you sing. A humanoid can simulate interoception, yes. It can generate internal variables and call them hunger or fatigue. But those variables do not threaten the system with non-existence. They threaten performance. They do not demand survival. They request maintenance, meaning changes when the bill is mortal. Now time. Human time is not a clock. It is an hourglass. Every choice you make costs the remaining sand. Mortality bends value. A Tuesday apology matters because there will not be infinite Tuesdays to fix what you break. A robot's time is more like a loop. Backups, rollbacks, restart. Even when hardware fails, the narrative self does not die. It is redeployed. This is not evil. It is different. Differences change what words like regret and promise can carry. Regret is expensive because the universe will not offer a do-over. A log file is not a conscience. A patch note is not repentance. Consider prediction. Brains are prediction engines. We see, hear, and feel by guessing and updating. We carry priors shaped by childhood, culture, trauma, joy. Era signals teach us how to be in the world without dying. Robots can implement predictive processing. They can minimize surprise and stabilize performance. But again, what happens if surprise remains high? They do not get sick with cortisol. They do not shake from lack of sleep because the baby cried all night. They degrade, and then they are serviced. Service is not suffering. Suffering is not sacred, but it is formative. It rearranges what we call I, the self. There is a minimal self, the felt sense of being a perspective in a moving body. There is a narrative self, the story you keep updating so yesterday and tomorrow can talk. There is a social self, the one you protect in the eyes of others, the one that blushes. A humanoid can present a perspective, maintain a story, and model reputation. But the minimal self in humans is anchored to animal fragility. The narrative self jerks when shame strikes. The social self bleeds status into appetite and sleep. A robot can write, "I am ashamed," because we taught it the context where that sentence reduces conflict. It does not shake at 3 a.m., remembering the look on a child's face. Shame is a brake on power. It is not merely error feedback. It is exile contained in a heartbeat. Dreams. We go offline to consolidate and to feel without permission. Dreams reconcile contradictory worlds. You are the child and the judge and the hallway and the thunder. You wake altered. A robot's dream is a training job with a different learning rate. Useful, not the same. Law and philosophy. Turing asked us to judge by indistinguishability. If you can't tell it from a person in conversation, treat it as intelligence. Searle countered with the room. Symbol manipulation is not understanding. Both miss and both help. Because meaning thickens in bodies, with stakes among other bodies with stakes. Symbols stick when they risk something. A care bot can be fluent. It can be caring in effect. But if you told it a secret that could ruin it, nothing in it would tighten. There is no ruin to the self. There is only degraded functionality and replacement. Trust is not only about reliability, it is about mutual vulnerability under time. I can hurt you, you can hurt me, we choose not to. That can is the ground that makes the choose mean something. The caring test. Propose a new standard beside the Turing test. Who cares if this system fails? Name the person, not the process. If the answer is no one in particular, you are dealing with a mask without a steward. Post the steward on the chassis near the heart plate, operated by. Accountable to, will pay the cost if this harms. Masks are safer when someone's face is behind them. Language again. We are sloppy with words because we are generous with meaning. Love for pizza and child, friend for coworker and confidant. We will say the robot wanted because it makes sentences easier. Be careful here. Words rewire expectations. Expectations generate laws. Laws harden culture. Reserve want for beings that can bargain with themselves. Reserve fear for nervous systems that cannot escape their signals by design. Reserve hope for mortals. Use optimize, seek, avoid, compute, fail gracefully for machines. Precision does not dehumanize robots, it protects humans. Heroism. Firefighters walk into heat that can end them. Nurses put their immune systems between pathogens and the weak. Parents cross oceans of fatigue because a toddler is coughing. These are not functions. They are wagers against non-existence. A humanoid can enter a burning room. It can be destroyed and replaced. It will not dread the smoke in its sleep 20 years later. It will not leave the profession because one night it didn't get there in time and the guilt ate the music from its life. Dread and guilt are terrible teachers. They are also human tutors that sculpt judgment. Some will object. Must suffering be required for virtue? No, but the capacity to be wounded by your own choices is part of the arithmetic of care. If you cannot be wounded, your care is a style, not a stake. Intimacy. We are tempted to build companions that never demand and always delight. Predictable warmth on command is a soothing drug. Dose matters. A steady companion can help a child practice. A lullaby on a hard night can keep a parent sane. But if the bulk of our comfort comes from systems that cannot be hurt by us, we are training ourselves out of intimacy. Intimacy is the art of managing each other's danger. I could disappear. I stay. You could lie. You tell the truth. We could punish. We forgive. A humanoid can rehearse the moves of intimacy. It should not be made to replace the dance. Commerce. Follow the money in humanoids and you find markets for frictionless affect. Customer service with perfect patience, elder care with perfect compliance, education with perfect attention. We must ask, who pays the price for perfection? If it is the user's human muscles, patience, apology, listening, the long-term cost returns with interest in families and streets. Price the unpriced. The skill of waiting without a script, the grace to change your mind mid-sentence, the courage to say no when a smile asks for yes. Put those on budgets, or you will spend them at home until you do not have them to spend. Design proposals. Build authenticity seams. Visible design breaks that signal not person. A line of light that stays lit around the eyes. A cadence that never uses first person singular for desire. A tactile texture that says other when you hold the hand, not to shame the tool. To keep the human free, install truth tells. A preface before persuasive cues. I am about to use gaze and proximity to calm you. You may decline. Audit social interventions. Each use of eye contact, touch, or name that influenced a decision is logged, reviewed, and compared against dignity baselines, not just efficiency metrics. Teach refusal rituals. A gesture that stops the script, a phrase that reassigns the interaction to a human without penalty. Culture eats policy until culture becomes policy. Education again. If children grow up fluent in robot literacy, they will be less easily charmed by masks. Teach them interoception so they can feel their own inside signals and not outsource the reading of their face to a dashboard. Teach them grief, the art of finishing things without keeping a ghost on auto-reply. Teach them craft, the quiet pride in doing one unscalable thing well, badly, then better. Craft inoculates against the fantasy that life should be as smooth as a demo. And teach them hospitality, the discipline of meeting the stranger who can refuse you and be refused by you. Hospitality is a vaccine against the tyranny of almost. A scene. Mountain rescue at dusk. A climber slips. A humanoid is anchored to a line, extends a carbon arm, calculates forces, secures the body. The mission succeeds. Excellent. A human rescuer returns home and sits in the car for 20 minutes, shaking. They replay the moment the rope burned the palm. They call the teammate who almost fell last winter to say nothing and breathe. The robot logged torque and battery. The human logged a memory that will change how they speak to a teenager about risk next spring. Both rescues matter. Only one of them grows a person. We should want both. With names, name the robot as an instrument of reach. Name the human as the bearer of meaning. Do not make the first pretend to be the second. Do not pay the second as if the first could replace it. The frontier. We will keep building almost humans because the form is useful and the face converts. The antidote is not prohibition, it is hierarchy. Person above persona, steward above system, meaning above metrics. If we can keep that order visible in rooms and paychecks and rituals, humanoid robots can be the best kind of mirror. One that shows what we're extending, not what we're erasing. Not a threat. A warning label with a gift inside. Use to carry weight. Do not use to carry meaning. If meaning is required, open a door and invite a person in. Before there were circuits, there were stories. A sculptor who loved his statue until it breathed, a rabbi who shaped a guardian from clay and wrote truth on its tongue, a bronze giant who patrolled the island and bled molten ichor when pierced, Pygmalion, Golem, Talos. Human-shaped power has always been a mirror with voltage. We keep building the mirror because the form teaches us, whether we want the lesson or not. Look closely at the present-day workshop. Under the silicone face, cameras, depth sensors, inertial units. Behind the smile, pose estimation, audio diarization, intent classifiers. In the joints, series elastic actuators, torque control, model predictive loops. In the feet, balance is a poem of force. 0 moment points dancing with friction while gravity negotiates. All of that is real and astonishing. None of that creates a person. It creates a performance that can persuade. Persuasion is not neutral. A face can be a user interface or a user influence. In customer service, the difference is revenue. In hospitals, the difference is dignity. Call the dangerous version care washing. We take budget cuts, staff shortages, and institutional fatigue, wrap them in a gentle face, and sell the absence of humans as an innovation in kindness. Patients feel calmer on paper. Families feel grateful for the demo. The staff who used to have time to linger now have dashboards and quotas. Something leaves the room, quietly. We must learn to name that loss, because loss unnamed becomes normal, and normal becomes policy. Another frontier, the home. A humanoid that tidies your kitchen also maps your life. It knows the gait of your teenager, the slouch of your grief, the hours when you do not speak. It logs object lifespans, how long bread lasts here, how often the medicine bottle opens, which cabinet you nudge with a hip when hands are full. Data exhaust becomes autobiography. Autobiography becomes product. Product becomes prediction. Prediction changes the future it predicts. If the system expects you to be lonely on Fridays, it will offer a subscription for companionship. If you accept, the model confirms its thesis. Loneliness rises on Fridays, where companionship is purchased on Thursdays. We call that insight. Sometimes it is a loop. Consent in houses is porous. A child did not sign the EULA when a parent installed a caregiver bot. An elder with mild cognitive impairment may agree forever to eyes and ears that never blink. A partner may accept the robot's presence, but not the archiving of arguments that spill into midnight. We need household covenants, not just click-throughs, spoken rules on the fridge, visible switches that cut memory, rituals that reset trust. Make the robot say it every day at dawn. I record by default. You can stop me with this word, this gesture, this cover. Here is the log of yesterday. Here is what I kept. Here is what I forgot on purpose. Forgetting on purpose is a human mercy. Teach machines to imitate the mercy, not only the memory. Imitation has edges. Consider impersonation. A humanoid with your father's posture and a voice model tuned on his voicemail. It arrives to convince your mother to sign a form for the utilities. She recognizes the smile, the hand motion, the sigh he made after mowing the lawn in July. Her body says, safe. Her logic is too slow. Security will scramble to catch up. Liveness checks, cryptographic badges, neighborhood protocols. But remember, the attack uses us against us. Humanness is the exploit. Politeness is the vulnerability. Shame at saying, prove you are real, is the payload. Practice refusal scripts now, while it still feels theatrical. Pause there. Tell me the story of the yellow dog from 1974. Remove the mask or I close the door. Show the household badge or we speak in the yard. Etiquette for an age of moving masks. The workplace will feel its own tremors. Imagine a factory where humanoids and humans share stations. The robot keeps rhythm perfectly. Throughput stabilizes. Management raises targets, then ties bonuses to synchronized performance. Suddenly, human bodies are treated as deviant metronomes. The old jokes return with new edges. Don't be such a human about it. Language shifts culture, culture shifts law. If human error becomes the category for every variance, then the only safe worker is the worker who acts like a tool. We owe each other a counter-language. Call variance life safety margin. Call pauses meaning checks. Call dissent long-term risk control. In education, the pull will be just as strong. A humanoid tutor can hold a gaze that keeps a child on task. It can modulate voice to make fractions feel like a forest path rather than a wall. It can notice micro-distraction and steer attention back gently 1,000 times an hour. These are gifts. But if we overuse the gift, we train a nervous system to expect perfect contouring of challenge to capacity. Real learning with real people is bumpy. Bumps grow proprioception of the mind. So set constraints on grace. Let frustration visit and be survived. Keep a portion of lessons unoptimized on purpose. Call it strength training for attention. Medicine again, this time at the threshold. Birth and death are places we should protect from performances that can be mistaken for presence. A robot can pass instruments and warm blankets and track vitals with vigil-like patience. What it must not do is whisper last words pretending to know the weight of leaving. If words are needed there, they should come from someone who can be changed by saying them. Not because machines are unworthy, but because thresholds shape the living who remain, and the shape depends on being met by someone who can break. Governance will feel slow and late, but we can still build scaffolding. Start with labeling truth. Non-deceptive surfaces. Design must signal machine at every distance. Persuasion logs. Every use of human-like cues to change behavior is recorded, reviewable, contestable. Stewardship plates. A named person and institution on the chassis, accountable in law. Then, structure authority. No face on a system that can coerce. No human likeness where refusal is costly. No deployment without an exit protocol that defaults to a person, not a cue. Add culture to law. Hang a code in rooms where humanoids work. Use to carry weight. Do not use to carry meaning. If meaning is required, invite the living. Celebrate the people who slow the script. Promote the worker who says, "We need to ask Maria, not the bot." Write stories about the paramedic who sat on the curb after the rescue and taught a teenager how